Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Wednesday, September 25th. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and we have another busy weekend ahead on this show. It's loaded, let me tell you. We got Texas, Oregon, Tennessee, Alabama, UCF, Colorado, and more on today's show. It's a big one, guys. Before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Also, those of you, I know you're out there thinking of signing up to On3. I can get you there for just $1. Use promo code BERG1. That's On3 for just $1. You can read everything that Chad Simmons, Steve Wiltfong, the great Pete Nakos, everything they have to write for just $1. Go there right now, on3.com. Use promo code BERG1. All right, here we go. Big development overnight. UNLV quarterback Matthew Saluka announced he is leaving the team because, quote, representations that were not met. Now we're talking NIL dollars. So UNLV, they're off to a 3-0 start. And last night, their quarterback on a Tuesday night announces that he is walking away from the program mid-season. I got NIL expert at On3, Pete Nakos here. So Pete, what happened? Why are we, after week 3, talking about a starting quarterback on an undefeated team walking away from the program?
So first things first, Josh, we got to go back, right? So Matthew Saluka, Holy Cross transfer, enters the portal this offseason, had a lot of success at the FCS level, and now at UNLV, beats Kansas, has UNLV as a college football playoff contender, and then last night obviously announces he's going to redshirt, enter the transfer portal, step away from the UNLV program. Okay, it's a lot to digest.
Right.
So what exactly happened? We're still trying to find out. There's a lot that happened here. For starters, talked to his agent today, Marcus Cromartie with Equity Sports, and according to him, Matthew Saluka was promised something in the range of $100,000. He's only seen $3,000, which was a relocation fee from the UNLV collective, and that hit over the summer. So he has not been paid for any of his work or anything like that.
So they essentially helped him move.
They did help him move.
And then the payments, according to his agent,
have
not been coming. Now, before we go further, the $100,000 for a transfer quarterback.
Yeah.
Is that within range of what a UNLV should be spending, could be spending? Is that cheap? Is it expensive? Where do you gauge that with what you heard about the transfer portal?
So the average group of 5 NIL collective is working with something in the range of about $500,000 to $1 million. So I would say that's a little bit on the higher end, but at the same time, you need to be competitive in the transfer portal. So that is what his agent said. I talked to the collective before we jumped on here, Josh.
So that's the school side of things.
The collective is the school side,
program.
correct. The program side.
of things.
Talked to them. They said they never extended a $100,000 contract to Matthew Saluka. They were in talks to pay him roughly $3,000 a month. No deal was ever struck. And the other thing to note here is the agent is saying that he had a conversation with an offensive assistant during Matthew Saluka's portal recruitment that would have paid him something in the range of $100,000 to $150,000. All this said, nothing was ever put in writing.
Right, because that's what I was going to get to. I was going to say, so a signed contract, proof of a signed contract could solve this pretty quickly. But if there is no contract, then why did he walk away from the program?
From my understanding, from talking with the agent and talking to some sources, Matthew Saluka felt that he had not been paid what was promised to him, that because of that, he felt that if and you know, one thing, Josh, his agent Marcus Cromartie repeatedly told me that he's tried to pick up conversations again with UNLV head coach Barry Odom and the collective dating back to training camp and in recent weeks. And I think I'm still trying to put my finger on the exact decision. Obviously, he was supposedly promised $100,000, and that is a driving factor in his decision.
So, do you think there's any path for him to rejoin the team this season?
No. He has no intention of rejoining the UNLV football program at this point.
So he's going to go back in the transfer portal.
Yes.
And what's the next step for him? And what do you think is he a high value quarterback? Like, does he have the leverage to make this play?
So, UNLV beat Kansas. It was a really big win for the program. He rushed for more yards, I believe, in that game than he threw. So I'm not
100 yards in the game.
I'm not here to say that he's going to be a high-value NFL draft pick. I do think, though, and Matthew Saluka believes he gave his all for UNLV. He believes he's owed money, and now he believes that he should enter the transfer portal, from what I've gathered, and try to go earn dollars and also play be a starting quarterback somewhere else.
So a signed contract is really what we're lacking here.
So a signed contract is what we're lacking. We're also trying to still piece together what exactly happened, right? We have the story from the agent, have the story from the collective, and trying to, read between the lines and trying to figure out what exactly happened. But it appears a promise was made. A promise has not been delivered. All that said, though, that written contract is still not there.
All right, you guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but you guys, let me know, comment section below right now, who do you think's in the wrong here? Is this on the program side of things? Is the agent? Is the player? Who's in the wrong? Let me know, comment section below. And also, how do you think this thing plays out? Let me know. All right, Pete, let's talk a little bit more general speaking. This is the first that we've seen of this. Are you hearing any other rumblings that there's players, you don't have to name teams, names, anything like that, but is this something that you hear about, NIL promises not being kept? Maybe we've seen it play out in the offseason, but never in season. Is this something that we could see more of?
So I've heard about it a ton. I've heard about it a lot in recruiting. I've heard a lot about it in the transfer portal. Even this summer, I got a phone call from an agent who was talking about a starting quarterback at a Power 4 school potentially holding out. That obviously didn't come to fruition, but that just kind of paints the picture of just how close this is to a reality at a lot of programs. And what this also goes back to, Josh, is the relationship between a collective and a college football program. And we've had a lot of Power 4 head coaches speak out today. Brian Kelly, Kirby Smart, Sam Pittman has chimed in about how with the third-party entity, they believe that they don't have a lot of power or saying power about what a collective does.
Could this be a similar situation to the Jaden Rashada drama where he is in the midst of a lawsuit with the Florida Gators? I mean, could it go that far?
I don't know right now, to be honest with you. I think that the fact that there isn't a written contract could hold that up. At the same time, though, if they want to go after a legal, the legal path, they could. But at this moment, I don't know either way.
All right. Well, somebody thought they were owed money. Somebody didn't realize they were paying somebody money. I mean, a written contract would have solved a lot of issues here, but there is none. So we discuss. Let us know. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the situation in college football with NIL? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk Alabama recruiting. Big weekend in Tuscaloosa. The Tide are 4-0 in the Kalen DeBoer era, but this weekend, Kirby Smart and the Dogs are coming to town. I got Bama insider Tim Watts on this video. I want to know who are the most important recruits visiting when UGA and Alabama kick off in prime time. But first, guys, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. We're talking Bama recruiting. We love talking Bama recruiting, so jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring in Tim Watts. Tim, how big, I know how big this weekend is from a football perspective, but what about from a recruiting perspective?
Huge. We're working on this visitors list, Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, and myself for almost 2.5 weeks, especially the last game being on the road and then the bye week. It's going to be a who's who, especially in the South, but we're going to have guys coming from across the country, coast to coast, up north, deep South, obviously, California, where Kalen DeBoer has made himself comfortable to begin with. But, it's going to be easily, triple digits, which isn't unusual, but the quality of the triple digits is what's going to be different.
All right. There's a couple big names on campus that I've spotted. I went to Bama Online. I'm not going to lie. This is where I got it from. Go to Bama Online. They got a huge visit list, a lot of commits coming. But I want to talk about some of the uncommitted prospects first, namely Justice Terry, the 5-star defensive lineman out of the state of Georgia. That's really going to – it looks to me like it's coming down to these two teams, Georgia and Alabama. What do you make of Justice Terry making it back to Tuscaloosa for this game?
I think the Georgia game was a given for Justice. I think coming previously before this what caught us off guard. That was more of the tip of the hand of where Alabama sat with this. I mean, this has been a case where we've kind of linked him with Georgia from early on in the process. Georgia's going heavy on the defensive line. Alabama seems to have more depth, but they want that big guy. And I mean, obviously, you don't get bigger than Justice Terry. I mean, we went from a Georgia lock to committed to USC to when he decommitted, he was a Georgia lock. But I'm not so sure that's the case. Not saying Georgia's not in it. They certainly are. They're always formidable. Kirby Smart does a fantastic job recruiting, especially on the defense. But Alabama, they're pushing hard there. Freddie Roach has a great relationship with Justice Terry, and this goes back. So although it's a new staff, this is a coach that's been in connection with him since he was a freshman, maybe even before that.
All right, couple flip targets on campus. Derek Smith committed to Auburn. Ivan Taylor to Michigan. Joseph Mbachu to UF. What do you make of these guys? Who's the priority, and can Alabama flip any of them?
I think they're in the discussion for all. I mean, Derek Smith was committed to Alabama. I mean, you're talking about a quiet recruitment. I mean, I don't know of hardly anybody that talks to him. They talk to people around Derek, but he's just a quiet kid. He's one of the best athletes in the country. Committed to Alabama as a safety, flipped to Auburn as a wide receiver. So that's something you got to kind of figure out. Alabama needs safeties in this class, obviously, with none committed. Ivan Taylor's another one, was committed to Notre Dame, visited Alabama, visited Michigan. At one point, several people, including myself, felt that Bama was in the driver's seat. Michigan visit really blew him away. Maybe the Michigan situation has caused him a little bit to pause, take a little bit of a look. But we know he's been communicating. B.O. had a great interview with him. He's talking to Colin Hitchler 4 or 5 times a week. He also talks to the rest of the coaching staff. So obviously he's one in there. And as far as the Florida commitment, I mean, I think Bama's looking for defensive linemen. That's kind of new for us. I think Bama's kind of figuring it out what they want to do on the defensive line. Obviously, Justice Terry's the one you want. You're probably telling him you're not taking anybody else. That's me assuming. But I think, they're keeping him warm. They're going to, with a guy like that who's just really blowing up, first time on campus as far as game atmosphere, you kind of wait and see what he thinks after the game.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of lay the groundwork for that one. But this visitor list, you guys go check it out on Bama Online. I know we're only midweek here. So the 24 hours to 12 hours before the game, that's when you generally see some of these big additions to the list. But the list is already pretty big. And there's going to be some important commitments on campus. Tim, which guys do you think need to be back on the sideline for this game? Just, so Alabama can check back in, get them back on campus one more time for a big game.
I think one that was important is Michael Carroll. I mean, he hasn't been on campus in a while. He moved to IMG from Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We weren't even sure he was coming to this game. Miami made a heavy push. Went on him hard the way Miami does. But said he's solid since then, or said he felt extremely comfortable with his visit, his commitment. And so coming up, get him on campus, seeing why he committed to Alabama, who did a fantastic job. Courtney Morgan, Coach Cap, the offensive line coach, really did a good job there. And it's not surprising. Alabama has a great offensive line class. Courtney Morgan was an offensive lineman in college. He's heading the recruitment there. So, the offensive line is always going to be looked at. And there's potential to lose both their interior guards next year. And Carroll, he's a monster. I mean, he's a savage. He has a chance to come in for playing time right away.
All right, Tim, exciting weekend on tap for Alabama fans. So Bama fans, talk to us. Who's your most important target on campus? Is it somebody already committed, one of these flip guys, or is it Justice Terry? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk Texas recruiting. The Horns, they're off to a 4-0 start, and they have their first SEC home game of the season this weekend. Mississippi State, they come to town. Another home game, another chance to impress recruits, and that's what Texas has been doing this season. AP polls number 1 ranked team is also looking to land the number 1 ranked recruiting class. I'm going to break it down. We got some flip intel. We got Longhorn insider Justin Wells on this video, and we are going to talk Horns recruiting. And just like the Horns have been winning on the field, Prize Picks has made me a big winner this season. Prize Picks is great. You guys know how to play. You pick 2 or more players, then you select more or less on their stat line, and you just win. That's all I do. I just win. And Quinn Ewers has been a big winner for me this season. I've hit more than on his passing yards a few times this year. I also love playing the Travis Hunter more than on receiving yards. That's been a big winner for me. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I like to take the over on INTs. DJU at FSU, he's hit for me a couple times. Prize Picks, though. It's easy. It's fun. It's a great way to play daily fantasy while you watch your favorite college football games. Let me know who you guys got in your lineup this week. I might play Quinn Ewers again. I need some winners. Let me know. Comment section below. Prize Picks, it's the most fun way to make a little money during the football season. Here's what we're going to do. Go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop. Use promo code inside scoop, and you get a guaranteed $50 when you play $5 in lineups. That's prizepicks.com/inside scoop. $50 to play 5. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, let's bring in Justin Wells from Inside Texas. Now, Justin, last week, Malcolm Simpson, interesting D-line prospect. He's committed to Nebraska. He goes 6'3", 270. He made an unofficial visit last week and popped up on campus. What does that mean? Because we know that Texas is trying to finish their defensive line class. Is he a priority target moving forward?
He's becoming that. Right now, he does not have an offer from Texas. But that is something that he's talking to Texas coach Kenny Baker. And listen, Malcolm Simpson is one of those guys that he has a tremendous amount of upside. Multi-sport guy, plays basketball, very, very athletic. Former teammate at Galveston Ball, a 5-star Texas commit, Jonah Williams. He was at Jonah Williams' ceremony, actually. So there's a connection there. And Texas really, really likes Simpson. Now, Simpson will be the first person that tells you he is solid to Nebraska. Everything is locked in. He feels great, but he is going to keep his options open. He is kind of looking at other schools a little bit, listening to other schools' pitches. Honestly, though, I think it's just Texas. I think he's very solid with Nebraska, but the Horns have his attention. And right now they're going to actually bring him back for the Texas and Georgia game. And that might actually wind up being an official visit as well. And so if an offer comes to fruition in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think that tells you how much of a priority Simpson is. Texas was looking at 4 defensive linemen for 2025. I actually think that number is going to be 5 now.
All right. So if an offer comes through, what do you think happens? I mean, is this an instant flip? Do you think Texas is going to have to pursue him? Where do you think Texas stands if and when that offer comes?
I think Texas is in a great spot. Actually, I think they're in a tremendous spot. Again, Simpson doesn't want to say anything public because he is so respectful of Nebraska coaches. Matt Rule and those guys have done such a good job, and I love how conscious he is about that factor. But again, Texas it's hard to deny the hottest team in the country. They're number 1, and there's an opportunity for him to play very early.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about this weekend coming up in a second, but I want to talk October 19th. That is the weekend Texas plays Georgia at home. We already have 2 big 5-stars confirmed. Jonah Williams, who's committed to Texas, but also the number 1 athlete in America, Michael Terry III. He's confirmed for coming in for that game. There's going to be a bunch more. Go check Inside Texas for that. But I wanted to talk to you about this development that Michael Terry's coming to campus on October 19th. What does that tell you about his commitment timeline, which he hasn't commented on really, but really since summer we've been saying, hey, a commitment could come before the season, it could come early in the season. Well, now he has a visit set for October 19th. What does that tell you about his timeline?
I don't think it tells us much about his timeline, but I do think it tells us where he's leaning and where he's potentially going to go. I think Texas is the leader in this recruitment. Nebraska, huge, building the relationship. Oregon, even better. Will Stein did a great job in this recruitment as well. I'm with you, Josh. We were kind of expecting a late summer announcement. And Michael Terry and his family are just being very pragmatic. They want to make sure that they ask all the right questions. They want to make sure that they make the right decision. This is a big deal for them. Being an athlete in that designated position, that matters. And so I think Coach Milwee and Coach Chris Gilbert have done a tremendous job in this recruitment. Sark, especially after that first official visit in June when he came on campus. But right now, I don't think the October 19th date, the Texas-Georgia date, I don't see that coinciding with this timeline. He may be committed before he shows up to that visit, or he could do it after. I will tell you this. I think this is going to be the last trip he makes. I think the Texas-Georgia game is going to be the last one he makes at least before we get some conclusion to it. And again, I just think Texas has the lead over here after a really good run by Nebraska and Oregon.
You think those are the two teams that it's down to right now? I mean, on paper, there's more teams
I think it's
involved,
down to
but
Texas
in reality,
and
do
Nebraska.
you think it's those two?
Yeah, I think it's Texas in the lead, and I think Nebraska is the one that would come second, come up runner up if they were in a beauty contest.
Okay. All right. Let's move to the
And I'm
next
not saying
segment.
Sark is more handsome than Matt Rule, not that kind of contest.
All right. We might have to do this weekly, this next segment. It's called Texas Taking FSU's Lunch Money segment. And we've talked Myron Charles flip already. Javian Hilson, the decommit from Florida State, trending heavily to the Longhorns. And this weekend, wide receiver commitment to FSU, Dalen McCutcheon, is going to be on campus for a visit. This is significant. Last weekend, he was at A&M. This weekend, it's the Longhorns. Kind of, much like Malcolm Simpson, is he a priority target for the Horns, or is this a situation where they're just trying to keep him warm to see what happens down the road?
Texas and McCutcheon kept their relationship even after he committed to Florida State. And, Texas made sure that they had their priorities. Jamie French, Khalil Lockett, big-time 5-stars, those were the guys that they honed in on. Once they got those two, that's when I think now they're shifting to the next level. They're shifting to adding to finishing out that wide receiver haul. They really like Dalen McCutcheon. He is a very complete wide receiver. Todd Dodge and those guys at Lovejoy have done a great job, and FSU did a great job early in that recruitment, solidifying that foundation and that relationship. But McCutcheon's he's keeping his options open. He's watching games. He understands that he may have a chance to play college football in state. He could stay closer to home if he pick Texas or Texas A&M. I think the Horns want him, and I think after this weekend we're going to see movement in this recruitment because I can see them taking 4 wide receivers, at least 3, and they've got 2 in the mix right now. McCutcheon's a guy that Texas thinks very highly of. Like I said, he's a very complete receiver, and honestly, McCutcheon could be so complimentary to a guy like Khalil Lockett and Jamie French. If Texas could flip that kid this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. Texas fans, talk to us. Let us know how you're feeling about this upcoming weekend with Dalen McCutcheon in town. Also, Malcolm Simpson, potential flip target down the road. We'll see. Talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk Tennessee recruiting. What's the hot start done for Volunteers recruiting? We're going to find out. We're going to get into it. We got Austin Price from VolQuest, and we're going to break it all down. But first, Tennessee fans, these are exciting times. Jump on board, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We are the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, so jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Austin Price, straight from Norman, Oklahoma, another win. What has the hot start done for recruiting? What are you hearing from recruits themselves when they talk about this Tennessee football team?
Well, obviously, they love the upward trajectory, Josh, and they love that Tennessee continues to flash. Defensive guys go, wait a minute. I thought this was just an offensive school. Like, look at us, right? And so they're excited, obviously, the Marion Dyes of the world. Mm-hmm. And then you got the offensive guys who watch Nico just throw seeds. And, the throw to Dante Thornton the other night where he didn't break stride and took it 66 yards was an exact example of what Nico is turning into and continues to blossom into. So, everybody's really excited around Tennessee right now because, they've watched this program kind of go from the outhouse to the proverbial penthouse in 3.5 years.
It's happening. And this weekend, let's talk a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. A major development. Isaiah Campbell, the number 4 ranked edge in America, number 43 overall. So we're talking a top 50 player. He decommitted from Clemson, puts himself back on the market. So I got to ask you, is Tennessee the reason he decommitted?
He's been talking about this for a long time, and every time he would get to that point where he was going to do it, Clemson would talk him out of it. And I think he finally got to a point where, there was no more talking him out of it, no more talking his family out of it. Tennessee is absolutely one of the reasons. But, North Carolina has been pushing here for a while now.
Yeah.
He decommits on the same day North Carolina gives up 70 to James Madison. So, obviously that's not a great look for Mack Brown. And let's face it, if Mack Brown were to, retire and call it a career at the end of the year, I think that affects, not only him, but anybody committed to the Tar Heels. Mm-hmm. So, I do think that being close to home, if not at least close-ish, is important. Tennessee obviously would be that. It's about a 5-hour drive. from where he's at to Knoxville. And, don't sleep on Florida State and Notre Dame. Both those schools are also trying to make a pitch here. But Tennessee's definitely in a pretty good spot as we said here at the end of September.
Yeah. All right. He's one to watch moving forward. Now, one to watch moving forward is Douglas Utu, the offensive lineman committed to Tennessee. But over the weekend, we saw picks go in for Douglas Utu to flip to Oregon. However, here we sit midweek, Austin, and it sounds like Tennessee is not giving up easily. What's the latest on Douglas Utu?
Well, no, Tennessee's not going to just throw in the towel, but at the same time, based off conversations you've had or I've had, it certainly sounds like it's a matter of when, not if. But I mean, with recruiting, you never know. Again, Isaiah Campbell was slated to decommit from Clemson a few times over the last several months and never did up until this past weekend. So you just don't know what happens behind the scenes that can kind of derail things. Do they put it off, and then end up never doing it, all those little things. But, Oregon's a school that's always been right there for Doug. And, it's not surprising. I mean, just like, Desan Brame was inevitable to flip back to Tennessee from Oregon. Douglas Utu right now certainly feels like he's inevitable to flip from Tennessee to Oregon.
Well, offensive line, a major need. Does Tennessee have a plan if Utu does flip to Oregon?
Yeah, I don't know if they have a plan for the prep ranks. I think the more likely scenario would be they just go to the transfer portal and try to go that route. They saw Utu as someone who could play tackle, but most likely was going to be an interior guy at the next level. I think Oregon has pitched him being on more a tackle for them, so that could play into it a little bit. But right now, it certainly feels like Tennessee would probably just go to the transfer portal unless someone called them, which has happened a few times over the last few weeks.
All right. You and I have talked a couple times on the Inside Scoop about linebacker being a position in need for Tennessee. A couple names I want to ask you about. Madden Faremo out of California, Jaden Perlotti, who is from Georgia, committed to USC, has flipped a couple times already, and then Austin Howard, who's committed to Mississippi State, but he's from the state of Tennessee. Any of those three could you see Tennessee making a real play for?
Yeah, I mean, the young man out of California, Tennessee certainly has some ties there with Coach Inge living out in Southern California for a long time. That one, could make some sense. But again, he was kind of pegged for Notre Dame for the longest time, Josh. And then, it seems like that's kind of cooled a little bit and he's looking around. Jaden Perlotti, that one would be a head scratcher to me. I'm not so sure I believe that one. Then, you got Austin Howard, who, Tennessee was starting to make a push for, and then he committed to Vanderbilt because, they were on him from the beginning, or they offered him from the beginning. Tennessee was on him before anybody else was, but they didn't pull the trigger and offer right away. But then he flipped to Mississippi State, says he's going to be here for the Alabama game coming up in mid-October. We'll see on that one. Another one I would throw out to you would be Wisconsin commit Brandon Ains from Page High School just outside of Nashville. That's another one Tennessee's been evaluating more and more, and I could see them go in on as a linebacker for that another linebacker spot.
All right. Now, Tennessee coaches hit the road recruiting during the bye week. Undefeated. It always feels good to hit the road undefeated when you walk into some of these high schools. So who should fans expect to get a visit from the Tennessee coaching staff during their bye week? Any major targets you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I mean, Tennessee's going to go out and see several guys in the 26 class. I mean, they'll go see a guy like Tyreek King. They'll go out and see Rodarius Jackson. Tennessee is someone, they're a school that's going to try to, get to a lot of their commits. You start to see, players, like Travis Smith get traction from Auburn, and Georgia's, talking to him a little bit. You want to go and just kind of quiet all that down a little bit. So I don't think it'll be as much 26s as it is, focus on just kind of reconnect with your 25s, make sure they're good, and focused on getting here in December.
All right. Well, we'll see on Friday. There should be some power tees on the sidelines of some of these high school games. Let us know if you see any of the Tennessee coaches out there. And also, let us know, Tennessee fans, talk to Austin and I, who is your priority flip targets moving forward? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk Oregon recruiting. The Ducks, they're off to a 3-0 start. And coming out of the bye week, I'm just thinking, recruiting, it's been awfully quiet in Eugene. And when it gets quiet, You know Dan Lanning and his staff are cooking something up, and we're talking flip targets in this video. I got Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck, best Oregon insider in the business, and we're going to get into it in this video. But before we get started, Duck fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed. All right, let's bring in Justin Hopkins, and we're talking flip targets because there's a bunch of them right now on the board as Oregon tries to dial in what is already a top 10 class. Can they finish top 5, top 3? We're going to see. All right, first guy I want to talk about, 5-star corner Dijon Lee, committed to Alabama, but reports out just yesterday that he's been in contact with Oregon. What's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, it's the name of the game, right? All these early commitments around the country are going to lead to a lot of flips later on. So makes college football recruiting fun. But in the case of Dijon Lee, that's a guy that, Oregon wasn't necessarily strong in the mix for in the spring and summer, obviously committed to Alabama. But the Ducks have circled back around, and Dan Lanning has made personal contact there. Right now I would consider that one a long shot, maybe even in the incubation stage, if you will, for Oregon. But we know, you and I both know, Dan Lanning loves those late signing day surprises.
Right.
So this is one I think Oregon might be laying the foundation there, and we'll just kind of see if there's anything there or if this one kind of marinates at all.
Yeah. Right now, there's a little spark. We'll see if he shows up on campus. I think that's a great first tell on, hey, do we have a shot down the road? But yeah, a name to remember for November, December. Now, another name, we know Oregon's in the market for a big-time tight end. Right now, they're focused on Lincoln Cure. He's committed to Kansas State. Kansas State struggling a little bit right now in their season, but the 5-star still talking to Oregon despite his commitment. Justin, how real is a flip from Lincoln Cure?
Yeah, I would say an imminent flip is not going to be an accurate way to describe that one, but I would say this. There's obviously enough mutual interest still between Oregon and Cure that Drew Maringer, the tight end coach of Oregon, went out there during his bye week to pay him a visit. So I can't imagine him making that trip all the way out there just to say hi and have Lincoln Cure slam the door in his face. So, right now, again, like we kind of just talked about, let's see if he gets back on campus, right? Let's see if he comes out for a game. His name's been floated around for the Ohio State game in a few weeks at Oregon. That's a game that's probably going to feature a lot of top 50 recruits in attendance. I think Cure's very much a candidate there. And if that happens, if that takes place, then I think the chances of Oregon flipping him obviously go up a lot more.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the different stages of a flip. Let's talk about offensive lineman Douglas Utu, because I think he's more progressed, right? 7-10 days ago, we probably would have talked about Douglas Utu and put him in the same category as a Lincoln Cure, Dijon Lee. Oh, they're laying the groundwork. They're talking a lot with him. We'll see what happens down the road. Well, down the road is now. Coming out of the weekend, we saw Chad Simmons, Steve Wiltfong put their predictions in for Douglas Utu to flip from Tennessee to Oregon. So what are you hearing? What's the latest, and what's the timetable on when we could hear something?
Yeah, real interesting one there. And obviously, in the name of the game, if you get wind of one of your guys potentially flipping, obviously you're going to fight back, right? And that's what Tennessee's done here. I think going into the weekend, there was some speculation that a flip could happen, maybe possibly during that past weekend or even this week. That's how serious things got. But I do believe Tennessee has kind of rallied a little bit here and done their best to hang on to U2. And I think we're just kind of in that, what are we doing sort of phase, right? Or is the flip coming, or are we going to stay put? So I think Utu's got a lot on his plate. I still wouldn't be surprised to hear something this week from him, flipping to Oregon. But that said, it seems like that momentum meter's maybe gone back a little bit closer to the middle than it was swinging there for Oregon. So this one's going to be interesting to watch for the next week or two.
Absolutely, but Oregon definitely making him a priority. Now I want to talk about 4-star Noah McHale, committed to Texas A&M. Is he also a priority, and do you consider him, where do you put him on the flip scale?
Yeah, he's very much the one that got away for Dan Lanning. Oregon didn't need to sign a big linebacker class in 2025, but they wanted a couple dudes, and Noah McHale was at the top of the board almost the entire way. So when he was, when Texas A&M was able to land his commitment, that was kind of viewed as a big loss for the Ducks and Ducks recruiting. Right now, again, that's another one talking about coming out for Ohio State game in a few weeks. I know the communication has remained strong between those two sides ever since his commitment. He's not as close as I would say, Douglas Utu and a potential flip there is. But this is one that I feel like Oregon is not going to go away quietly on. And we've seen from years past when Dan Lanning has his sights set on somebody, he does not give up easily. And I think McHale is going to be one in November, December that we're talking a lot about between Oregon and A&M.
All right, like we said, Oregon sitting at number 8 overall in the On3 industry team rankings. So they're trying to get into that top 5. Any other flip targets that you see right now on Oregon's board that Duck fans need to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, there's two, we'll call it interesting ones, 2 Washington commits. And of course, Duck fans love nothing more than stealing their rival to the North's top guys. But tight end Vanderplug, who's committed to Washington. Oregon had offered back in the spring, and he visited. So there had already been a pretty good relationship there. But the communications kind of picked back up again since his senior year. I think the Ducks watched his first couple games and came away, feeling impressed. And, of course, missing on a couple other tight end targets along the way. And then, of course, fellow commit offensive lineman Zach Steskowski. That's a tough one to say. An offensive lineman out of the state of Oregon. And so you look at that one being an in-state guy. Coincidentally enough, he picked up an Oregon and a Georgia offer last week and mentioned that both of those teams are now kind of in the mix for him, and he's going to continue to look at them moving forward. So those would be 2 fun ones. A last really quick one I can throw at you, 5-star cornerback Naeem Offord. I know you've talked about him. We've all talked about him. Ohio State commit. Oregon and Auburn are working really hard on that one. So that's another potential big flip for the Ducks as well.
All right. Exciting times. Duck fans, talk to me and Justin. How are you guys feeling about some of these targets? Who's your top flip priority? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk UCF recruiting. The bounce house will be bouncing on Saturday in Orlando. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the CU Buffs, they're coming to town. It's going to be a must-watch game for me. Also, recruits, there's going to be a lot of them there. A lot of talent on the sidelines watching this one as well. Who's going to grab this opportunity, though? The winner of this game is going to have a leg up in recruiting because there's going to be a ton of talent from the state of Florida on the sidelines. It would be a huge win for UCF at home. It'd be a big win for the Buffs on the road. I'm going to talk about it with Philip Dukes of the 5-Star Flex. But first, guys, do me a favor and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We are the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. So jump on and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Philip Dukes of the 5-Star Flex. Now, 3:30 kickoff from Orlando. Going to give these recruits plenty of time to get there. What type of turnout are you expecting for this UCF Colorado game? Is it going to be like one of these destination games that we see in Miami, in Tallahassee, in Gainesville? Is Orlando going to have that feel to it this weekend?
Absolutely. You got to think UCF has been recruiting not just Florida, but they've been recruiting with the Southeast imprint, where Orlando, where a lot of people grow up taking at least one road trip to Disney World. So think about it. 6 hours from Atlanta, a few hours from Mobile, not that far from Montgomery, Alabama. There are so many players and teams that are focused on this game, not just because of UCF, but because of the show that comes with Colorado and Coach Prime. So this is definitely an opportunity for UCF to show what they do. And I think it's a destination game because the bounce house is one of the more underrated game day experiences that you'll have in college football. And I think UCF is ready to show the world how to really kick it in Orlando.
Yeah, it is an underrated. And you know what? I haven't been to Boulder. I haven't been to Folsom Field, but I've been on the sidelines for those UCF games, and you don't realize how close the fans are. It's like it much like Folsom Field, it's one of those old school college football stadiums, even though it was built probably like about 15, 20 years ago, but it has an amazing atmosphere. So that being said, you nailed it. UCF has had a solid footprint in the South really since Gus Malzahn took over. What type of recruiting culture has he brought to UCF?
I think he has a good blend. Like, even if you look at the defensive side of the ball, he's got young guns. He's got a guy. Look at his defensive coordinators. You get a guy like Addison Williams, who is young, from the Atlanta area, one of Cam Newton's best friends. He's always been able to parlay that into helping. You know, if anybody can get Cam Newton on the phone, people at other schools call Addison and D. Law, who's also on UCF staff, to get Cam Newton on the phone. So that's how he's been able to be successful in the Atlanta area. And But then you balance him out with the guy like Ted Roof, a grizzled veteran, somebody who knows what parents are looking for. So I think that's what he's been able to do. He's always identified people. If you go back to what Gus Malzahn did at Auburn, he paired a guy like Travis Williams with a Kevin Steele, and that's how the defense was able to maintain a level of continuity where they were always in the game. Maybe not the championship level defense, but they were always a threat to win double digits. So I think he's done the same thing at UCF by being able to create a blend of youth and veteran leadership. I think that's why you're seeing more and more recruits choose UCF.
Mm-hmm. And we are here looking at some big names on campus. Quarterback Landon Duckworth from the 26th cycle, number 12 quarterback in the country. Demetra Samuels, a 2025 UF commitment. Lamar Brown, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the 26th cycle. He's out of the state of Louisiana. A couple big-time UCF commitments going to also be on campus. So, Phillip, a win over Colorado. It'd be impressive to these recruits on the sidelines for UCF. Would they, in a way, with UF and FSU having the seasons that they are, could you see UCF making a play for some of these commits? I mean, we see Demetra Samuel on campus this weekend. He's one. There could be others. How do you feel about kind of where UCF lies in the hierarchy of the Florida schools right now? I got to tell you guys about this new series that dropped on Amazon Prime about how NIL, yes, NIL has changed the college sports game. It's called The Money Game, executive produced by Shaquille O'Neal, LSU alum, and it's on Amazon Prime. It drops September 10, where this is a great show. They follow Livy Dunn, Angel Reese, and Jaden Daniels, their last seasons at LSU. You guys are going to find this really interesting, I promise. Take a look.
Can I see how I look before we start? July 1st, 2021, the NIL rule changed. That's the day my life changed.
The schools were reaping the benefits of the billions of dollars in TV contracts.
For almost 100 years, no one challenged it.
Now, the Livy Dunns and the Angel Reeses, they're getting 6- and 7-figure deals.
The more eyes you got on you, the more people are going to try to tear you down.
I do get a lot of inappropriate comments.
All the stuff that they say on a daily basis is disgusting.
You're playing on the biggest stage every week.
Angel Reese is not active tonight.
Could you expand a little bit more on why Reese didn't play in here?
Yeah, I could, but I won't.
I don't have to tell you guys everything that's going on in my life.
And now, for the big moment, your 2023 Heisman winner is...
I guarantee there's some girl out here who is trying to get their hooks into Jaden Daniels.
I'm not going to let anybody take my focus from the game.
You don't have to play the money game, but if you want to capitalize, you can do that.
I love the game. I can also take care of my family for generations.
We thought of everything that would happen in NIL.
I would have $100 in my account as one of the star athletes at LSU, and I was confused why.
Reebok is a question mark.
They didn't reach out to you?
No. The whole team is so excited to have you.
These athletes are in a pressure cooker.
I remember saying that I wanted to be done, but winning is addicting.
I think this is the beginning of it, and it's beautiful.
There it is. I told you. Looks good, doesn't it? The Money Game. Amazon Prime. It's an inside look at NIL in a way that we have never seen it before. Amazon Prime gives you a raw, real look at how NIL is shaping NCAA sports and the lives of these athletes that are participating in it. And it's 6 parts. It's not just one. You can't tell a great story in one part. This is 6 parts. It's Amazon Prime. The Money Game. Go watch it.
Man, I think right now I did a piece on UCF. I did a piece on Florida schools before the season. It may have been April, where I ranked each experience in recruiting, whether it be the coaching staff, as far as the relatability, whether it be the job security, whether it be the game day experience. UCF actually finished second at the time in a lot of those scenarios, and it's because what they're doing on and off the field. By joining the Big 12, you absolutely give UCF is no longer little brother when it comes to recruits and playing in big-time games. They always had to wait to a bowl game or they were somebody's off game in the season. Now they're playing big-time competition every week. And so that's something that Florida State can't say anymore about UCF. That's something that Florida can't say anymore about UCF. They can no longer say, you can't play in a big game. You won't be seen on television when it comes to UCF. Now you think about job security. Who has the most secure job in Florida? Miami's, right outside of Mario Cristobal and what they're doing coming into the season, there were people unhappy with Cristobal as well.
Absolutely.
I think Gus Malzahn is the most secure coach in Florida right now. That's another thing you can sell. You get a win against Colorado, you start to see more of the national media pay attention to UCF. Let's say KJ Jefferson gets off. He continues to play well. Then you start to see him in some of the, RJ Harvey. Then you start getting people in the national conversation about particular players, and that all plays into what they can use as recruiting tools to say, hey, right now we're the number 2 team in Florida. Of course, Miami is number 1, but we're number 2, and I think that'll bode well for them going forward.
All right, give me your prediction. Colorado versus UCF this Saturday, 3:30, Orlando, Florida. How do you see it playing out?
You know what? Vegas says UCF by 15. I don't think it's going to be something's fishy about that. Either they're going to blow them out or not. I'm still in between, so I'm going to do this. Don't call me a wuss. I'm predicting overtime. How about that?
Hey, that last week's thriller in overtime against Baylor. Yeah, I think it's going to be a one-score game. Could go either way. I'm going to go with the Knights at home, but I do think it's going to be a close game. I think Colorado's been really impressive. I can't wait to watch Travis Hunter, the best player in all of college football, hands down. I mean, the fact that just the little things that he does, like making that play at the end of the game in overtime, he went for over 120 yards through the air, touchdowns, whatever, but forcing that fumble. I mean, his ability to make an impact in games is I just sit there and laugh. I mean, I can't do anything but laugh because it's so unexpected. But you also do expect it. In the big moments, you expect Travis Hunter to make the play, and he has so far. It's been really fun to watch. We'll see what happens. I'm really excited about this game. Phillip Dukes with the 5-star flex. What do you guys got going on this week on your show?
Man, so I loaded up. I got Andy Staples. I got Andy Staples on. I've got Steve Wiltfong going crazy. Got a great interview with Nebraska commit Pierce Mooberry, who's a Nebraska legacy. A really, really good interview with Keldrick Falk talking about from Auburn, budding star of a defensive lineman. So it's a lot going on the 5-star flex. And I also wanted to give a note on Travis Hunter. So I'm at an NFL event last night, and I'm talking to a very prominent agent. And this guy says, Travis Hunter is so good that you have to protect him from himself. He doesn't know that he's not supposed to take on those running backs the way that he does. He says when we talk about Travis Hunter, he's a 50-20 type guy, that whatever side of the ball that he does choose, he's going to play 50. You're doing yourself a disservice in the NFL if you don't make him 50-20 and let him play both ways. But it has to be either 50 on offense, 50 on defense, and 20 the other way. But he was adamant about how special, and the words that he uses, he's a psycho for football. And it kind of reminds you of Kobe Bryant. And I just thought I'd share that because this is a really big-time agent.
Yeah, really fun opportunity to watch him play against a great UCF team this Saturday. So we'll see you guys there. Phillip Dukes from the 5 Stars Flex. Thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Man, thank you so much, brother.